Hello and welcome to another episode of the Phillip Wylie Show. I'm very excited to have Ankita Dhakar joining me today. We were connected on Twitter, and so we've kind of been communicating. And she saw some of the podcast, and we figured it makes sense and that to have her on the podcast, and should make a great guest. So, if you don't mind introducing yourself, kind of telling us who you are, where you're working at, and kind of your background.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Philip, for having me on the show. I've watched your previous videos and they were really, really interesting. So thank you so much for doing that. So my name is Ankita. I'm the founder and CEO of Capture the Bug, which is a bug bounty platform. It's actually Australia and New Zealand's first vulnerability intelligence platform. How I started. So I started my own company, cybersecurity consultancy firm that specializes in penetration testing, late 2019. And since then, we've been, working with clients in New Zealand, Australia, Europe, India, and just late last year, early last year, I was delivering an engagement for a client here in New Zealand for their, it was a black box penetration testing, and this client came back to me and asked a very interesting question, and said, how sure you are that you've gotten all the vulnerabilities in our application. And because we know that, traditional pen testing, it's a point in time analysis, it's a one-time thing, um, I couldn't assure him that, yes, we have covered, because I knew that they were doing a lot of changes throughout the year in their application. So then I thought I'd look for something that would help them. And we couldn't find a solution for SMEs. So then we developed Capture the Bug. So yeah.
Very, very interesting. So do you still do both, offer penetration testing services and the bug bounty service?
So we're moving towards a SaaS thing. So we basically offer pen testing as a service through Capture the Bug, which is, also one of his concern that we don't get reports in real time. And which was, fair enough if you have developers working on patches and if only receive a report in a PDF format after the testing has been done. It wasn't really friendly for them. So yeah, we're offering pen testing as a service, bug bounties, disclosure programs, and yeah, consultancy through security.
Yeah, it's a very interesting concept, and a good point that not getting the bugs in real time, because I know some companies, and I spent like the first 5 years of my pen testing career as a consultant, and anytime we found something critical or high, we notified them right away. But it's, there's sometimes that I've dealt with third party companies that doesn't always happen. You don't always get someone responding right away, the way they should. So that's an interesting concept that you have.
I think the problem is, yeah, it's also because of, there's a huge skill shortage around the world for, pen testers and security consultants. And most of these, security vendors are using limited resources. So I'm not blaming them, but, if there's these people are working on, other different projects as well. So it's likely that they might forget to report a bug in real time. Plus, having a SaaS platform just makes it easy for both the parties. So yeah.
Yeah, very cool. It's really interesting to see how the whole offensive security pen testing world has changed. So it's changing for the better. There's some things I see out there that have gotten maybe worse, that needs to be fixed. Some gaps, because with some of the compliance pen testing, as I've kind of experienced over my career, is, say if you're doing a PCI pen test, you go in and you're just focused on that PCI environment, and sometimes they're missing other areas. They're overlooking things and limiting some of the types of
Yeah.
testing they do, because you've only got this short period of time. And from what I've experienced and seen through like bug bounty platforms, you're not limited to 40 hours on a pen test.
Yeah, and I think it's there's also a huge education piece that needs to go out, especially in New Zealand and Australia. A lot of the people are thinking that because they're doing it once a year or twice a year, they're secure. But that's just a tick box for compliance, right? That doesn't assure you real security. I think, and I was sharing this on Twitter, I think 2 days ago, that bad actors don't care about what compliance you have. If your SOC 2 is ISO 27001, all they need is just one bug that would, help them lead you to your internal systems. So yeah,
Yes, and they don't care if you filed a risk acceptance either for that vulnerability.
yeah, yeah,
It's
exactly.
one of the things always hated to see as a pen tester, because I had a pen test one time that I got command line access through a SQL injection vulnerability. They had XP command shell enabled, and but this was back in 2014. So fortunately, we don't see that many
Mm,
types of SQL injection bugs that bad now. But they filed a risk acceptance because it was a development box.
mm, interesting. Yeah.
So as far as like your background, kind of how, if you could take us through how you kind of got started in your career to get you to where you are today.
Sorry, could you repeat that question, please?
Yes, if you could share your background, kind of how you got started and kind of how you got into your role as a founder.
Yeah, sure. So I used to work for a company that's based in New Zealand. It's called the Information Management Group. So I used to work with them. They basically in the digital security space. And they used to get a lot of interesting information for confidential destruction stuff like health records, passports. One time we even had a Gucci truck arrive, for destruction of the new perfume line. I don't know, something went wrong, but um, so yeah, that was the curiosity that I developed during working for them. What happens if this data gets into the wrong hands of people? And this was back in, I think, 2019, 2019, yeah. Um, and when I was researching, I found that a lot of businesses in New Zealand don't have the resources, don't understand what cybersecurity is, and the businesses who are providing that services are not just they're not after this smallest segment. They're looking after the more the government or enterprises. Um, and because I was so curious and intrigued by the term cybersecurity, I was like, I think, this is, I'd really enjoy doing this. So I started listening to podcasts. I spoke with a lot of people. My brother, he's an ethical hacker, so I spent some time with him, just to understand. I mean, I'm not a pen tester, but I just wanted to understand, how that severity rating works, or how the risk assessment works. Um, because I've done that in my previous roles as a health and safety consultant as well. So that was the interesting part for me. But yeah, I think last 4 or 5 years I've just learned how to do a risk assessment for businesses and just help them understand, hey, this needs some um, help.
Yeah, that's good. Good that you're doing that because a lot of times people overlook the risk part of things, and management. That's typically the way they think more in terms of risks. So that's great and kind of and a great background. So, is there any advice you would give for someone that has a company? Any misconceptions you're hearing on cybersecurity? Can you kind of share with your advice based on that?
I think a lot of people appreciated that I don't come from this the traditional cybersecurity background, because I could see the things that other people don't see. Uh, I was able to explain the risk to them in a very plain language, right? And it doesn't have to be really, really super technical. I could do that because I come from a non-technical background. But to share advice, I think the first thing that I'm hearing and seeing nowadays is that, oh, we're SOC 2 compliant, and we're running scanners 24/7, 24/7, and there's no way there could be a bug in our application. Um, I think that's not true. As I mentioned, it's these people have the best technology, the bad actors, just like any other big company. So we have to be really careful about our assets, and what we're doing to protect them. So yeah, my advice would be to, you know collaboration is the key in protecting your assets. See how you can collaborate with the ethical hackers community. These are really, really brilliant people. They are skilled at what they do. So if you can collaborate with them, if you seek out for help, they're always just there, willing to do the good work, and giving back to the community is the thing.
And that's a good point too about the vulnerability scanning not being enough, because one things you have to realize is some of the threat actors, they create 0 days, and these vulnerability scanners don't
Yeah,
find 0 days. You need a penetration tester
yeah,
to do that, because if you get good pen testers, are the really good, really high level, really highly skilled ones can find 0 days or bugs that you normally wouldn't be able to find because they're highly skilled, and you just can't depend on vulnerability scanners. And one of the stories I like to share from my consulting days, I was doing a pen test, and fortunately the client asked for a 90-day retest. So they got through, they were doing the remediation
oh,
after the pen test, and there was a critical or high finding that they got that knocked out. But there was a low level or informational, I think it was a low level finding, low criticality, there was no exploits for it. But 90 days later, doing the scans before on the pen test,
yeah,
that vulnerability was no longer a low. Someone figured out how to exploit it. So if we hadn't done that 90-day
yeah,
retest, it would have been a year later. And there's all the opportunity. Once there's a CVE out there, your opportunity for
yeah.
getting breached is a lot higher.
It's also important to hire very, very skilled people. Like this can happen to anyone. And we all know that there's a huge skill shortage in the world right now. So it's really hard for businesses to even employ the right skill. And then it becomes harder for businesses who are seeking for these security services to actually know that, okay, someone really skilled is looking at my assets. Plus, it's just the traditional security testing spaces, with the rapid advancement of technology. AI is, it's just bringing a lot of new stuff, and there's a huge threat landscape right now. So I think um, we need to move a little faster. That's what I say.
So, what advice would you give to someone, whether they're trying to hire internal resources or get a consulting company or pen testing platform to do testing? How would you go about finding talent that's qualified to do the level of testing that's needed?
Yeah, I think it depends on, like what sort of test, what sort of test that you run, what your client demands from you. So, for example, if you're seeing a lot of, web app pen testing on your table from the client, make sure that you have enough highly skilled web application penetration testers who could do black box. Um, and then, yeah, look at their past achievements records. What sort of stuff have they identified in other web applications. It just really shows. Also look at if they're good at writing reports. I love people who are out of their 9 to 5 job, they're going out there, doing writing about the vulnerabilities that they found, sharing it with the world on Medium. It just shows that they're also good at writing. So it's important that, because a vendor or a client is paying for the report. So even if you have a great skill that is good at finding the vulnerabilities, but if they don't know how to explain it to a non-technical person, if they're not understanding how to explain it on a piece of paper in a way that people understand, then it's no good. So I think it's a very balanced approach that businesses need to take when they're hiring asset, which is becoming a little challenge. And I think that we will see a lot of these businesses approaching towards these ethical hacking and bug bounty platforms for help.
So for someone, to kind of change the point of view of this conversation, so someone that's wanting to get into bug bounty and work and do bug bounties for your company, what type of recommendations do you have for them on educating themselves to be able to do that type of work?
Yeah, we so it depends, some people. So for example, my focus presently it's to grow the local New Zealand ethical hackers community. So we go out and do a lot of speaking sessions to students in universities and schools. Sometimes they don't know that they're good at these things, right? You just have to spark a curiosity in their mind. So we do that, and then they think that, okay, this is also another way, because I've known about bug bounties for the 8, 10 years, right? Because I've lived in a family where these people have been on top 50. HackerOne hackers. But I just realized when I was building this platform, the education piece is still missing in New Zealand, especially. So a lot of people don't know what bug bounties is, if this is ethical, right? So what we're sharing with students and graduates and even industry professionals that hey, um, this is a good thing. You're helping the world, you're helping businesses in protecting their assets. And in return, they really. So for example, we have some programs in there because it requires New Zealand requires a lot of education. We're onboarding programs really, really slowly because we want to make sure that they understand what disclosure program is. Um, but you will see that these programs are really just you know they give you and reward you if you're spending them time, which I love about that in New Zealand. It's just not disclosure program for them. It's thank you so much, um, that you found something in our application, and we want to reward you for that. So yeah, I want to foster that culture in New Zealand. And if you're someone listening to this podcast from Australia or New Zealand, we're a very, very young platform. And for us, it's not just about a bug bounty platform. It's about, you know, because the advancement of technologies, it's just going at a super rocket speed. Any vulnerability that a business has, our vision is to provide a patch for that. So if you are a ethical hacker or a security researcher interested in helping the world, join us.
And for those that are just getting started out, they kind of, it can be kind of frustrated on some of the bigger, more popular bug bounty platforms because people are
Yeah.
finding things before you do. So this sounds like a good opportunity to get into on a platform before it, while it's still in the early stages. I think people will have more success.
We're also sharing a lot of for those who are new to bug bounties. We're also sharing a lot of high quality educational content on our Medium blog. In the last 6 months, um, you know that posts have been read for over 186,000 people. So it's a good content if you're just starting out. More than happy to share that as well.
Yeah, and one of the things too for our listeners, we will be sharing in the show notes the link to their bug bounty platform as well as the educational content. So that'll be in there. So you don't have to go out and do your OSINT and try to find it, but we'll be sharing that in the show notes.
Yeah, yeah. And
So
if,
as
if
far
if anyone
as
wants to reach out to me, sorry.
go ahead. I'm
If
sorry, go ahead.
anyone wants to reach out, yeah, if anyone wants to reach out to me directly, I'm very pretty. I try and make myself really accessible, so you can reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter.
That's great. That's one of the things that I love about the bug bounty community is it seems like the people working in these companies are a little more open and receptive to talking to people. Usually have their DMs open and trying to help. So if someone's wanting to join your platform, what are the requirements to sign up for your bug bounty platform?
Yeah, if you go on to www.capturethebug.xyz and you click on sign up researchers, yeah, the process is pretty straightforward. I'd also like to say that we're a community driven platform, so because we're a young platform, we also want feedback, suggestions from the community. What are the things that they see is missing from current bug bounty platforms? Is there a way we could improve our services? Is there a way we could add something that other platforms are missing? So that's also something that I'd like to hear from the ethical hackers community.
Very cool. So how long you mentioned this? So how long has it been since you switched over to offering the bug bounty platform? How long has that been
So
going
we've
on?
Yeah, so we've been so one thing that took us long to develop this platform was that we're also in the process of automating the triage process, which is something that's missing in the current bug bounty space. And because we wanted to play with the AI that's out there, so that took us some time on the research, but we only launched the platform last month, early last month. But we're seeing a good enthusiasm both in the community and both from the business side of things. So we've grown a community of 1,000 ethical hackers, but we're aiming for 5,000.
Good, very good. So you mentioned AI, and I know Chat GPT is like all the rave now since it
Yeah.
really kind of been brought to people's attention late last year. So has Chat GPT and AI been a big help in automating and helping you in some of your processes?
Yeah, so what we did was we integrated our platform with Azure's OpenAI. So we're providing businesses with a automatic patch assistance. So for example, if you're a business, you know, a company or a bug bounty hunter reported a bug in your application, you could just go into your report section on your dashboard. You click onto the report that you're needing help with in patching, and then you know that generative AI will help you patch it even faster. And that has been a really cool thing for businesses to try. So yeah, we'll see
Yeah.
how that goes.
Yeah, it's be exciting to see how it turns out for you. It's this the whole AI thing has been pretty awesome that how much it's helping people do things more efficiently and just kind of learning how to do it, seeing
Yeah.
some of the people out there how they're using it to automate their processes and do other things.
Yeah, we at some point we also want to do that for our ethical hackers, so they don't have to spend a lot of time in you know writing reports. But we just made it available for businesses first. Yeah.
So we're getting down towards the end of the show. Is there anything you'd like to share that we didn't discuss?
No, I just wanted to say thank you so much to you, Philip. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been lovely talking to you, and yeah, I just I was really happy when you said, "Oh, I'd love to have you on the show," because that's not something that I hear from people. So thank you so much. I really
Are you
appreciate it.
welcome? You're most welcome, and it's an honor to have you on the show. And I always like making new friends. So hopefully one day we'll meet in person
I hope
somewhere
so.
at a conference. But yeah, one of the things I love is meeting new people, and everyone's stories need to be heard because one of the things I see with podcasting is someone here it takes that one story that resonates with someone and it helps motivate them and inspire them in their careers. And some of the feedback I get on my podcasting is someone listened to this certain episode, and some episodes you may not hear much feedback about it, but there's always that one person that had that same background or they're wanting to do this thing and they got the encouragement from the podcast to get started. So that's
Yeah.
one of the nice things about podcasting and be
One
able to share
one
stories like yours.
one thing I also wanted to share is that my vision with Capture the Bug is also to grow the female ethical hackers community. Um, so yeah, if you're a female ethical hacker or you're someone that's interested in getting into bug bounties, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to help.
That's awesome. So thanks for joining me. I appreciate you being my guest today.
Thank you so much.
Thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you on the next episode.